think there's a lot of things I have to rebut from the beginning, and the good-looking thing we'll start with. We'll do that one later. The ante for me has totally been amped up. I told Sally on the way down here, we're going to know nobody. I mean, nobody's going to be there that we really know is not our class or whatever. So far, a cousin that I haven't seen in 7 years is here, and classmates from high school and classmates from college that I wasn't expecting, people from our home congregation, so the truthfulness meter for me has to change a little bit with my talk. So some of the things I might have embellished a little bit earlier, I have to dial those down a little bit. Also, a very unexpected bonus for me, I'll mention it a little bit later, and one of my points is seeing this row of people over here with the Touchdowns and the Hills, and because I'm going to specifically mention them. I didn't know they were going to be here. Maybe I don't read the information as much as I need to. Anyway, this is where I wrote down good morning. Good morning. I'm honored to be here to speak to you for a few minutes, and I hopefully have something to say that will have any amount of meaning to you. I was asked to speak last spring at a regular chapel experience. It was the 125th, the beginning of the 125th year of New York's existence, and I think they had run out of normal people to speak at chapel, or they were doing a series on when York students turn out opposite of how we really would like. But I had a great time, and was thrilled to be invited back. This is a little different. This time I brought Sally. This is the last time I'll mention her by name because she doesn't like me to mention her by name. But it's really wonderful to be back here, and I'm very, very thrilled to see the college. I've already shown her a few things that have changed dramatically in the years. I kind of have a title that I may or may not stick to that's called Son, There Are Many Ways to Get to Wichita from St. Louis. And maybe I should explain that a little bit. My dad, many of you would probably remember from his time here as a minister and as one of the teachers, loved to come with my mom to visit us in Wichita when they moved to St. Louis, which was their last home. And his approach to coming to Wichita was usually going on back roads, visiting small towns, stopping and having a picnic, visiting some out-of-the-way museum that had no meaning except to the people who were the curators and my dad, and then meeting all the locals, going down the street and saying hello to them, and that was what he just liked to do. On the other hand, when we went to St. Louis from Wichita, it was a totally different thing. It was point A to point B. It was interstates where there's regulated high speed, no distractions except for the bathroom breaks for the little ones. And it was a totally different philosophy about how to get from one place to another. Neither one was right or wrong. They were just different. And I've been thinking a lot recently about how life's twists and turns, events that land upon our lives, interspersed with God's will, make it so that all of us experience sometimes hugely different travels along the same way to our eventual destination, which we want to be heaven. In my lifetime, I've been associated officially with a lot of different mascots. From my Little League Reds team, first baseball team I ever played on over there at the Armory, to the York Dukes, to the Harding Bison, to the Campbell Cardinals, which is a little bitty town up there by Red Cloud, to Wichita State Shockers, to the Wichita Collegiate Spartans where I teach now, and unofficially as a Husker. But my first allegiance ever to a sports team or to any kind of athletic team was as a Panther. I never really knew sports existed. We moved here from Brooklyn. Mom and Dad moved us here in 1959. I'd never seen a sporting event in my life. I think I was born 6 blocks from Evans Field and didn't know anything about baseball. But I'll never forget the night that my dad said, "Son, we're going to a basketball game." I think I had to look up what a basketball game really was. And it was in the old gym, which has been gone for 44 years now. And I didn't know what to expect. But my entire life changed that night. Everybody knows they have a roadmap of life and when things change. And that was my first one. Because I fell in love with a sport, with an event, with an ambiance. Then I came home and I realized I didn't own a single ball, not a ball. So that night I took all the socks from my sock drawer and made a ball and started shooting it into the trash cans. My mom was thrilled with that all of a sudden we got all of them mixed together and whatever. But it was a lifelong love affair with with sports, with York College basketball, and I was hooked. If I could have found a way to have wall-to-floor posters of these players, and these players, some of them are here today. I did not count on this happening. I went home and I go, I want to meet Paul Touchton. I mean, I never did get to meet Paul Touchton, but I wanted to be Dickie Hill. That might have been a couple years later. These were the guys I wanted to be, and I was just thrilled by this, and I came home and it was just a whole new world for me. And everything was great for like 4 or 5 games, and then one night, out of somewhere, they lost. And I was 8 or 9, I think, and I remember having kind of a funeral wailing type reaction. What is this losing business? And I think my dad actually set up a talk with Coach Campbell for me, and I think Coach Campbell in his inimitable way said, Dave, we don't win every night. And I was stunned and shocked by that and hated it. So. But the whole thing about that game was wonderful. I love the ambiance of the games, the smell of the gym. If you played in those days, you can draw that smell up. I mean, just the whole wonderfulness of it. The fact that Coach Campbell would occasionally leave a ball out that usually had a strip of leather off of it, that ne'er-do-wells like myself could come in and shoot baskets all the time. The magic and the excitement of the crowd, the singing of the school song at the end of the game, which I can still do, and I dispute the line that says something about looking down on a busy town. That line was never really right, but anyway, it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And York College, all of a sudden, had brand new meaning to me. Over the next 10 years, I spent much of my free time being involved at YC, going to games, to youth rallies, to hanging out at the student center, to annoying the college kids, to having crushes on many of the co-eds, to mingling with students at church, being taught by students at church, having our parents having students in our home for dinner. Whether I knew it or not, or whether I liked it or not, York College was working its way into me. We didn't have an official relationship at the time. Dad was associated with the church here. Our family was really good friends with the other professors' families, the Millers, the Campbells, the Napiers, the Lawrences, the Hawleys, the Barnetts, the Bakers, and many others. And their kids were oftentimes my very best friends. I guess I always knew I would go to York College, and when the moment came, it began for me 2 years that would forever change my life. I was a young pup of 17, immature beyond belief, pretty sure I knew everything I needed to know about life. And probably I wasn't as excited as I needed to be about coming here, because in essence, I'd been here all my life. I guess my title is because I think that all of us have come here today on different paths that we could not have scripted in many ways, that are filled with different twists and turns, potholes, smooth sailings, journeys for some of you that are still in the early process, and some that are nearing the end. We're here today for some York College-driven reason. I mean, I like hearing the introduction of that. By the way, Stephen, your casual look, that's totally good with me. I didn't wear a tie on this for the same reason. For some of us who came here as students, this may be where the very first place we ever got to know Jesus. And for some of us, it may have been the place where for the first time we ever turned our back on Jesus, at least for a while. This may be the place where we first found true love in our lives. Or it may be the place where our first true love relationship totally disappeared. I can't tell you how many times when I was at York that I would see young couples, usually from Iowa, I don't know why that is, but they would come here and they'd be hand in hand. We're going to be married in a couple years. Within 3 weeks, both of them had found somebody totally kind of upgrade in both cases. No offense to this may have been the place where, because of the size of the school, you were able to try your hand at a lot of different things, such as chorus, or stucco, or drama, or athletics. And in that looking, you may have found a passion for your life that you didn't know was there. I remember that when I left York to go to Harding, I had the advantage of culling out those activities that I knew I wasn't going to be good at, and leaving them behind so that when I went to a different school, I could then finally concentrate on maybe the one thing that I could do well. And it was not academics, by the way, that was just a total lie. York still is this place where you can try a lot of different things, where you can be in a baseball team, in stucco, and in a chorus, and go on mission trips. That's still available. So the road I know best is the road that I travel, and I thought it might be appropriate to dwell on some lessons that I learned here. These are a mixture of moments and impacts that have settled into my thoughts over the years. And if you're here at the other chapel, some of these will sound alike, except that they won't, because you were probably a kid and you're probably looking at your phone and doing something else. So treat this like it's all brand new to you right here, because some of it is and some of it's not. I learned that the teachers that I had here could stand in quality that anyone else I've ever had in a classroom in any of the other schools I was at. In many cases, it was the mission field mindset that brought them here and kept them here. It wasn't the lure of a huge salary or a worldwide fame. I learned that a 1.2 GPA in my first semester was not going to be well received at home. I learned how embarrassing it was when my dad, who at the time was the dean of students, used my records to play in chapel as an example of American slide into degradation. They weren't even really bad records. It was like Jackson 5 and Gary Puckett, the Union Dad, those ones. And everybody would turn and look at me like, he's my dad. I learned what it felt like to visit the small towns we played in basketball, and that there was a chance on the bus ride home that the windows might be wide open due to the gas fumes on the bus, with snow joining us in the middle of the trip on the inside. I learned that there was a vast difference between how boys and girls were treated when it was found that they were engaged. Girls got a candlelight ceremony. Blew it out with material. On the other hand, boys pretty much had a brutal attack with shaving cream, smelly potions, and the loss of some degree of clothing. I waited until after I left York to get engaged. I learned it was possible to have a spiritual awakening from a highly unlikely experience. When I was on a chorus trip back east, the boys usually were housed in the church buildings, while the girls got to stay in the homes of the church people. And one night, at about 3 a.m., one of our guys in our chorus, Mike Westerfield, set his alarm for 3 a.m. Totally dark. We're sleeping in the pews. In the pitch black, he got up, turned on the microphone, and yelled into the microphone, "This is the day of judgment." Some things right here. I mean, if this was, I was not good. I learned that in 1971 when we made t-shirts that said Hewlett's last, it was really a lie, because I think what the school really meant was in 50 years or so, it would be its last. I learned that I could find the love of my life here, even though I had to leave school and then come back here to find it. It's been perfect. Okay, I'm sorry, that was a little awful. I learned that while my kids did not go here as students, they had life-shaping moments here while attending Soul Quest in its earliest form. In fact, while most of America remembers the O.J. Simpson white Bronco chase, I remember that night, well, I remember that too, but I remember that night that our oldest son, Zach, called us from Soul Quest and said, "Hey, guess what? I just got baptized." And my reaction isn't probably what you would thought, yay, that's a good thing. Because the next year, our daughter Megan also called and said, "Hey, guess what? I just got baptized." And we had a deal that I was going to be their baptizer. And Tim Lewis, I think, worked behind the scenes to conspire against me and baptize him up here. So the bottom line of that was our third child, I never let come to Soul Quest until we safely had him in the baptismal fold. I learned that some of your best friendships can be formed with people here at York who are nothing like you. And it really helps in some cases if there's a little bit of oddness. And usually I brought the oddness to the mix. And that York was filled with characters. Maybe the greatest lesson I learned here is it is possible to make horrible mistakes in judgment and still be savable. That may be the greatest blessing that York gave me. There's no shortage of people willing to come to your rescue. We see many examples in the New Testament of lives that are lived differently, something that we can see as well today. We're all wired in vastly different ways, and our choices oftentimes have deep and undeniable impacts. So it was with Peter and Paul, with Martha and Mary, with James and John, with Barnabas and Silas, and many others. All took different paths to a relationship with Jesus that, as far as we know, all ended with a glorious conclusion. But as with any spiritual journey, there's one strong constant. There's only one, and that was Jesus was the reason for the journey.
Amen.
I guess it's good to reflect on our lives from time to time with some degree of frequency and take stock of how's my journey going. It's always possible to veer off course, even when you're close to your destination. Mom and Dad moved to Lubbock in 1976. The first time Sally and I went to visit them, they said, now when you get here, there's a loop around the city. And you want to take the loop, and I didn't listen to which way you wanted to take the loop. So we went left and drove entirely around Lubbock to the exit that was one exit if we'd gone right. It was about a 20-mile out-of-the-way type of thing. But I never made that mistake again. We were just one exit away from where we needed to be. But life does that to us as well. When we turn wrong, unnecessarily at times, we take time needed to correct the problems that we brought upon ourselves. To me, I've never given York College the proper place it deserves in helping a brash, know-it-all kid somehow get on a better path toward a much better life. But as I stand here today, it's obvious, at least for me, that the journey toward eternity was enhanced greatly by my time here, by the people here, by God's presence here. I hope you can say the same thing. Thanks, and God bless you all.